Let's dive right into the first article that we're going to explore in episode 2 of SRE Review by Florian Heppner. Florian is an enterprise consultant at Accenture, and he writes about enterprise DevOps and SRE. There's a lot of emotion in his article titled Enterprise DevOps and SRE, How to Lead Them into Obsession. It's about organizations undergoing digital transformation to SRE, which can be a dull topic if you're not experiencing transformation. Now, you might not have got into SRE through a transformation, but you never know. You might experience being part of a transformation if you change jobs in the near future, especially to a less tech-native organization. That's why I think it's useful to know what happened. Digital transformations are fraught with emotion and are more like a roller coaster ride than a straightforward project. This is especially with SRE and DevOps, where a lot of non-technical stakeholders, sometimes even the technical stakeholders, have little idea what's being said. It requires a concerted effort and clear communication. It also means breaking repetitive habits that are already in place. It's key to keep everyone motivated at both the team and organizational level. Without motivation, transformations can easily stall and fail. Florian's article outlines 5 key areas for a comprehensive motivation plan during an SRE transformation. Let's explore them. The first is value communication. The second is transformational leadership. The third is nudging. Fourth, gamification. And fifth, competition. Let's break them down quickly. Value communication is all about clear, structured communication to explain why the transformation is important and what value it will bring. Transformational leadership is also crucial. Experienced staff who serve as strong role models can make a huge difference. Leaders should demonstrate their commitment, communicate frequently, inspire others to take risks, and increase psychological safety. They should also take a radical candor approach and challenge practitioners to take ownership of their work and align them appropriately with tasks according to their strengths and weaknesses. Nudging is all about making the new easier to do than the old. This involves reducing barriers to entry, making it simpler and faster with better usability, and sometimes adding sludge to the old process to add barriers like additional approvals. Sludge, hey? You'll have to read the article to understand that a little bit further. Gamification is super effective in a business environment. Surprisingly, right? It involves using game elements to set goals and give space to explore, test, and make decisions while completing quests. Key elements for motivation in gamification include receiving feedback on progress, control of the situation, and the freedom to generate possibilities. Competition is also a powerful element in transformation. It involves creating competition against each other, against a reference system, or against themselves to stress competition of some kind. Key elements for competition include goal setting, the feeling of progress by receiving feedback on goal achievement, and the sense of belonging. Florian's article outlines an extremely well-designed motivation plan that organizations can use to accelerate their own transformations and create a working culture that fosters success. So let's get motivated and make those changes happen. The second article I'm going to cover is What is clickops and How Can You Prevent It? By Herbert Preuss. Experienced SREs will be facepalming at why I've even picked this topic, but I've had solid advice telling me that a lot of organizations are still doing clickops. So this article is all about the struggles of dealing with automated cloud infrastructure across multiple providers while doing clickops. What is clickops anyway? In a nutshell, clickops means that cloud engineers end up doing a lot of manual work. They need to configure and deploy infrastructure across multiple clouds using, and this is in 2023, navigation through extensive documentation, clicking around, and provisioning and learning through trial and error. I could not think of a worse situation for engineers, especially if your engineer has the title of SRE. If you are happy with ClickOps, there's a hidden risk that you may not have factored in. Knowledge transfer of all of this manual work is not easy. In fact, it's downright difficult. So when an experienced engineer leaves your organization, their replacement will have a huge learning curve ahead of them. The biggest problem with ClickOps is that there is so much manual work involved, which takes forever and can lead to mistakes. That's not good for hybrid multi-cloud setup, which needs to be super flexible and scalable, and which seems to be on a lot of tech executive wish lists these days. But don't worry, there's a solution. The article suggests using APIs to make everything easier. APIs can help you figure out the best place for your applications, which means they'll run faster and smoother. You can also use APIs to automate and orchestrate all kinds of workloads, like multi-cloud setups. This will save you time and money and make your cloud infrastructure way more flexible and scalable. And maybe most important of all, something that reduces single points of failure, like an experienced engineer leaving. Now onto the third article by Frank Hebert of Honeycomb Honeycomb. The article's called How We Define SRE Work as a Team. As I mentioned earlier, Fred is a staff SRE at Honeycomb. He shares his experience in establishing the charter for their SRE team and provides valuable insights into their growth and evolution. His article is a thoughtful approach to defining the mission and identity for an SRE team as they strive for reliability, scalability, and sustainable practices. Let's take a shallow dive into the article. Honeycomb's SRE team has grown into 4 engineers and a manager. They revisited and updated their charter recently to reflect their current and future goals. You got to be able to reflect on yourself and change with the times in this fast-paced world of SRE. Fred mentions the key areas of focus that were reviewed and refined within their charter. He shares the debates they had regarding ownership of reliability, whether they should focus on existing or aspirational work, or even the consideration of taking on platform concerns. Their updated charter consists of 3 main categories. 1, championing reliability and scalability. 2, leading on-call and incident practices. And 3, providing a system-level perspective to the organization. These categories provide a clear framework for their team's responsibilities and guide their efforts toward long-term improvement and sustainability. Fred and his team expanded their activities beyond their core responsibilities because they got into incident reviews, writing blog posts about the work, joining webinars and conference talks. Some key takeaways you can take from this approach to looking at what you already have is the philosophy of continuous improvement. Fred and his team's commitment to revisiting and refining their culture reflects their dedication to staying ahead of the curve and adapting to evolving circumstances in SRE. It shows their commitment to shared understanding. The thorough discussions they held during the charter review process helped establish a shared mission and identity, which ensured that everyone on the team was aligned with their goals. There's a clear framework that came out of this. The new charter's 3 main categories provided a well-defined framework for responsibilities, enabling better tracking and categorization of the work. And the final takeaway you can get from this is the ability to do engagement and knowledge sharing through this process. Overall, Fred Hebert's article exemplifies the positive impact of thoughtful and intentional charter development within an SRE team. It serves as an inspiration to other teams seeking to define their mission, foster growth, and enhance their organizational impact. Let's finish up with a quick take on a non-technical piece. It's the 4th and final article I'm going to be covering. It's by Lorin Hochstein, and the article is called Making Peace with the Imperfect Nature of Mental Models. It's about how mental models can affect our work. It really got me thinking about how we perceive and understand the world around us. Basically, mental models are the simplified versions of reality that we carry in our minds. They help us make sense of things, but here's the kicker. They're never perfect. They're always incomplete, sometimes outdated, and occasionally just flat out wrong. Now, when it comes to operations work, like what we do, our mental models are especially important. They shape our understanding of how different parts of a system function. But guess what? When our mental models don't match up and what's actually happening in reality, that's when incidents occur. It's like a surprise party we weren't prepared for. So here's the thing. Our mental models are actually pretty good most of the time. Our brains are surprisingly adept at handling complex systems. They allow us to do our job effectively despite the imperfections of our mental models. We can't ignore the fact that our models can become outdated or inaccurate over time, though. We just don't have the luxury of constantly updating them. Imagine if we had to double-check every single action we took. So, instead of striving for constant verification, Lorin suggests that we focus on identifying cues that indicate when our mental models need a refresh. It's like noticing signs that something doesn't quite fit in the picture we have in our heads. By staying alert to these cues, we can proactively update our understanding and ensure our mental models stay as accurate as possible. Of course, we won't always catch those cues, and that's okay. Lorin reminds us that working in dynamic environments means our mental models are bound to go out of date quite quickly. It's just part of the job. But being aware of this imperfection and embracing it can help us navigate the challenges more effectively. So let's raise our coffee mugs to the imperfect nature of mental models, but also our ability to work with them, adapt, and constantly learn in our ever-changing world. That wraps up this SRE review.